This episode of Ghoulish is brought to you by the secret government agency watching your every move. Even when you sleep, they are watching, they are listening, they know what you are doing. You cannot hide, they will find you. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Ghoulish. I am Max Booth, a host, and on today's program I am talking to Jeremy Rybelt Johnson about his fantastic paranoid Cronenbergian novel called The Loop. This came out last year in 2020, but the paperback is about to hit any day now. So I got him on the show, and we talked about secret government experiments. It is a often sad discussion. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of depressing topics we talk about in this episode. We get a little goofy as well, but yeah, it's the government has been known to do lots of shady shit to its citizens, and we get into that. And not all of that is funny. Sometimes we crack a joke, but it's gonna be a bit of a bummer, I'm telling you now. So we do talk about at one point an experiment called Acoustic Kitty, and that does involve the death of a cat. So this is your warning up top. If you don't want to listen to an experiment about a dead cat, you should, well, I won't say skip the whole episode. I do, before I begin talking about the experiment, that specific one, I do give you an additional warning to skip ahead a minute or two. So just be on the lookout for that, if that's going to bother you, which is understandable. It's fucked up. It's a fucked up government. And that is what we're talking about today. It's what I'm talking about with Jeremy Rybelt Johnson to celebrate his awesome book, The Loop. I think you should go buy it. It's great. What else? I don't know. Oh, some quick self-promotion. It's been a busy-ass week at the PMMP HQ. What does PMMP stand for? I'm glad you asked. It's Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing, which is the small press I run in a house. Not an office. We can't afford an office, but we, myself and Lily Michelle, we live in a house, and we run a publishing company, and that's what we do. It's called Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing. Sometimes we call it PMMP, because who has time to say the complete name? But as I said, it's been a busy week because we were promoting 3 different books all of a sudden due to circumstances outside my control. 3 of these books we were publishing, all the promo stuff got accidentally pushed to 1 week, so it's been a busy-ass week. Up top, obviously, you should know about already if you listen to the podcast, Jurassic Christ by Michael Allen Rhodes came out on Tuesday. Now, that is a book about Jesus Christ fighting dinosaurs with machine guns. It's pretty intelligent, I would say, and also pretty badass. That's available now. You can pick it up any place. Go to perpetualpublishing.com, buy it directly through us, and you get like some neat goodies, some book milks, some stickles. I do have some ghoulish stickles coming in the mail someday soon with the new logo. Did you see the new logo? Betty Rocksteady made that logo. I love it. It's a vast improvement over the last logo we had. So yeah, Jurassic Christ is out. And also, what else did we announce? Oh yes, Todd Kiesling's Scanlines is a really bleak coming-of-age novella that was published in 2020 through a different press as a limited edition, only 150 copies. and it sold out pretty quickly. I didn't even get a copy, but Todd sent me an ebook to read for consideration of reprinting it through PMMP. And guess what? I loved it. I loved it to death. So we'll reprinting that in May. If you happen to subscribe to the Night Wilms subscription box that Sadie Hiltman and Ashley does, you probably already have a copy of it because it was included in the April box. But if you want to get a copy and you do not subscribe to Night Wilms, it's fine. It's coming out next month in May 11th. You just gotta go to perpetualpublishing.com and pre-order a copy. You'll even get a signed book plate. We'll go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble. All those places is available to pre-order. I will just let you know up top, this is a really bleak book. It's about suicide. It's about some teens who accidentally view a video really similar to the Budweiser suicide clip. And things only getting all fucked up from there. I love the book. I think you might like it too. It's strong. It's powerful. Scanlines by Todd Kiesling. Last book I'm going to promote right now before we get on to the episode. Again, I know it's a lot of books to promote at once, but it's been a busy week. We revealed the jacket art for a book we're releasing in July, and that is David James Keaton's brand new, massively long, insane novel titled She Was Found in a Guitar Case. Now, this is a book about a man named Dave who discovers his wife was found in a guitar case, and he reacts badly to it. And he goes on a rampage throughout the country, just fucking beating up cops, trying to find out what happened to his wife, how she ended up in this guitar case. It's a great book. If you've read anything by David James Keaton, you probably know what to expect. I recommend reading his novel, The Last Projectile. I didn't publish that. Broken River Press did. It's a great book. It somehow, I think maybe she was found in the guitar case. It's even crazier than The Last Projectile. Some might disagree, but they would be wrong. I love this book. I can't wait to bring it to you. You can pre-order that book only at the moment through perpetualpublishing.com. We're doing that as a paperback, ebook, and a hardcover. And if you pre-order the hardcover, you also get a signed book plate plus a love lock. Now, what is a love lock? It's a lock that you can decorate and hang any place in the whole planet. I'm being rushed off this intro because, as I mentioned, we do run a small press. And my partner, Lori Michelle, is getting impatient because we have to go mail things. We have to go mail books that people have bought. And the post office is going to close. So I have to get off this intro so we can go to the post office. So here's the conversation. Oh, do you have anything to say?
Hello, good world.
That's it?
Yes.
I'm talking to Jeremy Robert Johnson. Any thoughts about that?
Hey, Jeremy. No.
He can't. The conversation's done. This is the intro.
Well, that's okay. He can be excited that I said hello to him anyway.
Oh, all right. Well, anyway, here's Jeremy Robert Johnson. Oh, wait. I usually end these intros by laughing like a lunatic and then coughing. Would you like to do that instead?
I'm not a lunatic, so no.
Keep going. You're laughing. Do it. Keep going.
Shut up.
Hey, Max Booth III. I accept your call.
Oh, well, that's good because you agreed to do it. So it would have been rude if you declined.
It would have been a weird last-minute decision to pick up and be like, I can't do this. I can't. Are you kidding me?
I'm busy. Bye.
Yeah.
What you thought, like be like some mean lady from high school? Like, oh, you thought I was serious? That was a joke.
Oh God, the fake laugh is still. It ranks among the meanest things you can do to a person. Like especially if it's somebody you were like, man, I really hope this person thinks I'm cool, and you finally get them to laugh, and then they fade out, and you're like, oh, it was a fake laugh. I'm human trash.
Oh, that's never happened to me. Every laugh has been genuine.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
That's a lucky run.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I keep track in the notebook. Every laugh, I collect laughs. That is extremely creepy now that I think about it.
Yeah, it is. You say it out loud, it's really disturbing.
Yeah, what do you do for fun? Oh, I collect laughs.
Yes. What? Are you kidding? No. Just no.
I am getting some good pages in my notebook crossed out on this podcast, I'll tell you that. When I suggested a topic of secret government experiments, I thought, haha, this will be an amusing episode. But now that I've thought about it, this is going to be a really depressing conversation, I think.
Yeah, it's dark.
Like I've just like all day today I've just been just scrolling through various experiments the government has done on human beings, and it's not great. I'm not feeling too good.
No, and that's the thing is like, it's right now. It's like there's a strong psychological kind of barrier against conspiracy theories and stuff. But then when you study the history of illegal human experimentation, you're kind of like, well, but it's like, yeah, all the current conspiracy theories are, dipshit ones. And there's probably stuff happening right in front of us, but it's not like this stuff didn't happen.
Right. And like even like the wackiest ones you hear about nowadays, they'll still based in some type of truth. Like Alex Jones, the whole like, oh yeah, tap bottles turning frogs gay. Like the fucking government once came up with plans to come up with a gay bomb. Like that's a real thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that until today, this gay bomb that they came up with plans for, because they thought like if they sprayed enemies with female pheromones, everybody would just begin having sex with each other and they would be distracted from enemies.
Yeah, there's I forget I think Cody Goodfellow has a story called Love Parade where they actually succeed and they make a weaponized gay gas that goes off in the middle of a military parade.
Yeah.
And it's pretty great.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to look that up. Cody's a good dude. I've been talking to him a lot lately. You guys like all live together, right? In some fucking Rydal commune in Portland. Is that how it works? I don't.
Oh my! Well, I mean, he was up here all the time. He would crash at my house for H.P. Lovecraft every year, but no, the Bizarro compound was a different thing. For a long time, there were just tons of people all living really close together. And then one house had like Cameron Pierce and Jeff Burke and Brendan Armstrong and other people just kind of floating through. Donahue was there for a while. So there was a high population density of like the weird writers in Portland for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Like from an outsider's perspective, like I've never been around that location at all. I mean, like just from Texas, it's always like, how many fucking of you live in this same like town?
Many. It was dense for a while. It was kind of, I would say like 2005 to 2015 was like the big people were actively coming to the city kind of with the idea of being part of a community and stuff.
Sounds a little bit like a secret government experiment, to be honest with you.
Well, it felt like that a couple times too.
Have you ever felt like you were like involved in some type of secret government shenanigans, but like you just didn't say anything? Like you were just like suspicious of something going on?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in the 4th grade, I was in like the tag program in Bend, Oregon, and first of all, I didn't know that was based on like racist testing designed by a eugenics guy, the whisker test, which is something you find out like later. Because when you're little, you're like, oh, good on the test, and then you find out later it's like, oh yeah, that was designed for eugenics purposes or whatever, and it was hyper racially biased, etc. But
you called it the tag program?
Yeah, they it's like the acronym for talented and gifted. So they do this whisker test on you, and then they'd say, okay, you're like a burgeoning kid, you're doing well on these tests, we want to isolate you with a group of like-minded kids that can all pass this test, and then you're going to spend a couple years kind of, I compare it like, like the TV show Oz, it's like that versus the general population. Like, regular school was like Gen Pop, and then this was like Oz, it was like their weird tucked away experiment with all the kids that pass this test. And I think everybody I talk to remembers them like doing this fluoride thing with us, where we swallowed it instead of spitting it out. There'd be this like weird red thing, this weird red liquid they would give to us in a Dixie cup, and they'd be like, okay, swish it for a minute and then just swallow it. And then all of us later on, we're talking about it. We're like, that's absolutely not how fluoride works. Like, you're not supposed to ingest the fluoride. Like, what was that? And when we talked to other kids at the school, none of the other kids were receiving this. So it was like a red fluid they were only giving to the kids in the tag class.
What the fuck?
Which just makes me wonder. Yeah, makes me wonder what kind of like program that was, or if just it was fluoride, but like the teacher had been given the wrong instructions. You know, and so she fucked up this one step and just had a bunch of tag kids chugging fluoride for a year.
And as a result, just like inspired a group of like pillonoid human beings.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, those kids did come out a mess. Like for everyone that, you know, made it out into some kind of industry or became an archaeologist or, you know, works in tech or whatever, like there's a almost equal balance of literal crackheads, you know. So it was a blend. I mean, that's probably true of anybody's 4th grade class, right? It all bears out.
Yeah. Have you done like any additional research into like what they were doing like since you've grown up?
No, you know, I went back and I looked at like my documents from that year and all the stuff we did and the field trips, and nothing else stands out as anomalous. And so I just kind of wrote it off. But yeah, it was, the realization came to me years later. I saw one of the kids from my class and we were both at a bar, like, you know, home for the holidays kind of thing. And I was asking, I was like, do you remember that? Am I the only person that recalls that? And she was like, no, they definitely had us do that. But what was it? You know?
Yeah. Like what kind of emotion does that even bring to, like, to you guys? Like, are you just like, what the fuck? Are you like afraid, or is it kind of exciting to be potentially caught up into something that big?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, precocious kids also tend to have big time ego problems. So thinking you're part of anything special, thinking you'd be worth experimenting on, right?
Yeah.
That's how these fucking kids think. Like, I took the test, I'm special, and now I get the special juice. But in retrospect, I was just like, well, it really seems like it would have been fluoride, but they had us ingest it, so it shouldn't have been. So yeah, I would rank it probably as like more likely just a fuck up. But, you know, I never thought to ask my mom and be like, do you remember signing any disclosures or permission slips or anything for that? You know,
Any NDAs?
You let it drift, you know, you're like, well, I am what I am now.
Yeah, and the thing is, that liquid still hasn't left you, man. It's fucking tracking every step you take.
Yeah, it's like that stuff they can, that stuff from the abyss that they can breathe underwater. It's just, I just got a big reservoir of it somewhere in me.
That's pretty cool, man. My biggest like ego thing as a kid was for the majority of my teenage years, I lived in a motel room and I didn't go anywhere, like not school or anything like that. And I became convinced that I was being Truman Showed, and I was like really convinced that this was going on. Like I would like move things in the motel room and like talk out loud and like catch them. Like, oh, I'm about to jump out this window now, and I would open it and like. Yeah, some producer would come out, but nothing happened. So either I wasn't being Truman Showed, or they wanted me to jump.
You were just lonely.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lonely
That's kind
kid.
of yeah. Like it would almost be more fun to be monitored for entertainment.
Yeah, I was hoping it would go on, and but nah, nothing happened. And I think maybe that's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, yeah. It'd be nice to be. That's the thing. Like, it'd be nice to be experimented on. To know, you know, you had counted. Otherwise, you were just here.
When you think of like secret government experiments, which ones like jump out at you? Like, which one is your favorite?
I mean, oh my god. So, you know, I wrote a lot in Skullcrack City. I had two characters who were basically doctors during the Unit 731 project, and you know you know, like Mengele and all those stand out as just the absolute, like the depth of atrocity as far as human experimentation. You know, just the most horrifying commodification of human bodies as, you know, assets, using prisoners and stuff. So that's the first thing that I think of. You know. Just because, I mean, those are kind of the standard bearers for like levels of awfulness, you know. But then, you know, the one that seems like fun but is honestly not, and is like, is, you know, like MK Ultra, you think about that stuff, and you know, when they started realizing that it would debilitate soldiers to have them take acid and develop a sense of oneness with the universe, and they would realize like what they were caught up in. You know, like acid almost backfired on them. Was I just love that idea. You know, when they show the footage of the soldier just sitting up in the tree, and he's like, I don't know, man, I don't know what's going. I don't know why I'm even doing this. I'm like, okay, yeah, but I mean, but also it's such a violation, you know, to take someone's mind from them without their consent. Like there was always this rumor when I was a kid in Oregon that, oh yeah, you know, Ken Kesey, when he was younger, he worked at a family dairy, and he dosed all the milk one day. And it was this, you know, I never confirmed it or anything, but I was expressing that to one of my English teachers, like, can you believe it? Oh, fucking Ken Kesey, what an awesome guy. And he was like, that is one of the most horrifying things I've ever heard in my life. And you absolutely could not admire him if he did that, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh dear. Oh, okay. I've been, you know, I mean, that's the thing with all your heroes when you're a kid. You get to like 25 and you realize like, oh, wow, these are some awful, awful people in so many ways, you know?
Never look up anyone you ever liked, because it's gonna just crush you.
Yeah.
Is that true though, that he did that?
I've never seen any confirmation. I think it was just one of those like merry prankster rumors, you know. There were rumors that all those guys were just basically like, oh, hey, we showed up to the party and it turned out, you know, by midnight we'd all been dosed, you know. I think that's just was an ongoing, like, you know, behavioral thread. Like, and you can see it. Okay, if everybody really had Sandoz Purple and they thought they were opening minds and they believed it was therapeutic and they were in controlled environments, etc., you could see it then, because we're talking about like a burgeoning understanding of what those drugs could do. So, you know, I would file that one under maybe. But I have no like verification, you know.
Yeah, he was. Isn't it vilified that he was like a dosed, like he was a victim or a patient, or however they qualified it, of MK Ultra?
Yeah, I think he was. Or oh man, was it Kesey?
I think so, man. That sounds right, because I thought that's what you were going to lead with, and then you began talking about dosing cows, and that was surprising.
Yeah. No, I can't remember who all was involved in that, but no, I mean that would track too, right? They were like, so we dosed some of these guys and then we let them out into culture and they decided to evangelize. You know, that would be kind of a funny take too.
I mean, of all the experiments, I do think MK Ultra is the most fascinating. Maybe because of how much like distance it got. Like it affected a lot of people all around, like the fucking, not even just the U.S., but we even went into like Canada with this shit. So I don't know.
Yeah. They you know, they got some rope and they ran with it. You know? Let's see what we can pull off, as long as the funding's there and nobody's paying too close of attention. You know, that much free range.
And also, like, unlike some of these ethical experiments, like we still seem to keep like discovering new facts about it too. Like I haven't read it yet, but there's this book that came out recently called Chaos. Have you heard about that?
No, did they find more documentation or?
Well, I listened to an interview with the guy who wrote it, and evidently, like, there's a bunch of like evidence about like fucking Charles Manson being looped into all that, and he might have like been getting dosed that whole time, and like the CIA kept like bailing him out of jail and shit.
No, but also sure.
Yeah, I mean,
like, anytime you describe the CIA doing some kind of trash behavior, I'm like, well. Probably.
Yeah.
If you think that's bad, you should check out South America. Like, they've been up to some shit. Oh my god.
Who can you imagine someone like standing the CIA? Like, yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I mean, I can see people. I don't know, people with severe narcissism. You know, people who are psychopaths, seeing that level of control and admiring it, or you know, because you know, you talk about like the profile of a person who gets off on the idea of adverse human response to stimulus, you know, just so they can feel something too, so they can kind of see what's happening. So yeah, it's probably one of those jobs, you know, like hedge fund manager or lawyer, or a lot of those stock market guys, where the profile for a psychopath kind of starts to dovetail in with the interests of those business models. I think there's a lot of those jobs or roles within capitalism that have allowed that mind state to thrive, and then those folks have institutionalized those mind states and made them part of the overriding culture. So yeah, that's kind of one of my ongoing themes that I have in my mind about the state of the world today, is that we've kind of let too many of the psychopaths and sociopaths thrive under capitalism and design systems in which we're all diminished into this lesser state.
What do we do about this? How do we fix this?
Because when you're up against crazy, reason doesn't apply. So I'm not sure. Some people say like the only language, the languages they speak are like self-interest, which is also like a fear of violence and a fear of loss of what they possess, and so I don't know, take things away from them, take away their systems, take away their toys, and but then we're all kind of caught up in the same system and have to play their game to survive, and I feel a strong urge to subsist. I get really concerned when you experienced it recently too, like when you're fully without electricity and water for a while, your mind state gets primal really fast.
Oh yeah.
We were here and when we were on like the second day of having no heat in an ice storm with my son, and I'm cooking beans over the camp stove, shit starts to turn into the road in your head real quick.
It's really fascinating to me. Like, well, maybe not even fascinating, but like terrifying to like wonder what would happen like to the whole country if we just lost electricity like that for like a month at a time. Like, how quickly would we all just become animals? I don't know.
No, that's like, there's all those EMP thrillers on Amazon, right? The EMP 400 book box set that goes off of that premise. Like, no, I mean, it's you realize very quickly how central your connection to the electric grid and to the water grid are when you live in the burbs, or when you live anywhere where there's no natural access to power or fresh water or any of those things, and you're dependent on a human grid with just these little pipes and these little lines running into your house. And then during the pandemic, cable, man, we realized it took us a week to get cable back, and we were like, oh, cable's the only way we live now. Like, Comcast has us leashed up pretty good. Between what I do, my son's school, and my wife's work, it was like, oh, okay, we have no access to any of the ways we live right now, which was a weird sensation. We actually went into a Safeway with no electricity, with our backpacks on. Like, we hiked out to the Safeway and they were running cash only point of sale, and hiking around in there was kind of it was novel, right? It was a total like Dawn of the Dead, shopping trip kind of thing, but also disturbing, because you see that precipice, like how fast we could be pushed over that precipice, and all of a sudden those panicky takes on the apocalypse, or like the mist starts to feel kind of like, you're like, oh wait, no, it's serious. Like, I got an adrenaline rush once a year ago at the start of the pandemic. I finally got a Costco order to go through online at 1 a.m. Like, I'd been hitting refresh for 2 days straight. And when the order went through, I got a literal adrenaline rush, like a full on, I got so filled up with just excitement and dopamine. And I was like, maybe this is how it feels to like kill a deer when you're surviving off
maybe
like a Costco order put through. It was bizarre, and I was like, this is not healthy. This is not a healthy feeling.
I think it's safe to say that many of us have just gotten so conditioned to like just rely on so many things. Like, I'm not a handy guy at all. Like, I don't know how to fix almost anything, and I don't know what I would do. I mean, it's pretty terrifying, man. Like, if we did all lose electricity, like, I don't know how to fucking build anything. What would I do?
check your phone again.
Why won't my tweets go through?
Battery's not running down.
I don't know.
That's the stasis we were kind of in. I was like, I guess I'll just look at my phone again. And it was like, I'm at 15%, man. I got to go charge it in the truck. And then you go out and all the neighbors are sitting out in their vehicles charging their phones. Like they're like, I'll just keep pressing the button on my phone again until reality, resumes. Even if you are handy, man, like pipes freezing, that's there's a reason plumbers get paid so much, man. That's no fun. That work takes a real specialization and special tools and stuff. So yeah, it's we were like, my son kept asking, he's like, if we had a generator right now, can we go buy a generator? And I was like, I'm not sure. Like, I think they're really expensive, and I'm not sure if we can like hook it into our main grid, or if we just be running a super loud generator in the suburbs to charge our phones and run a stove,
Then the fucking HOA gets on you, man.
Yeah. Yeah, well, somebody told me if you have to run it in the burbs, you build a plywood box around it for noise containment and just leave an exhaust vent on the back. And I was like, okay, that seems reasonable. But also, my hope is just that we don't encounter this kind of thing again. But it feels like it's more and more common. So
yeah,
I don't know.
If this whole thing feels a little bit like a secret government experiment.
Yeah, not so secret. It feels more like a vast bureaucratic failure coupled with the inability to acknowledge global warming. Which is a whole different human problem.
That's one way to say it. Yeah,
like experiment of just vast levels of denial, coupled with the capitalist status quo, dragging us into a far diminished future. People are like, we got to get Bitcoin now. It's like, what if we don't have the electricity to run the Bitcoin? Like, I hope you have a good solar grid for that, or wind grid. Like, I'm pessimistic. I'm not going back to the gold standard yet, but I'm still like, seems like it's the wrong direction to get all the Bitcoins anyway. That's a separate.
Are you into Bitcoin?
My son is obsessed with the idea of owning Dogecoin, because he loves the idea that Dogecoin exists, that it's an actual form of like monetary transaction. So I told him we would attempt to buy some Dogecoin, but it turns out I have to do like a wire transfer into this one place, and I'm just so sketched out by it that I just keep telling him we're just working on it.
Can you explain what a Dogecoin is? Because I do not know.
It's like any other, right? It's like any other form of money. It's an agreed upon idea that can be used to perform transactions, right? So Dogecoin was originally based on the Doge memes, right? It's I think a Shiba Inu or some other kind of cute little dog saying wow and saying all these other cute dog verbiage things. And then some guy decided he was going to coin it, and he put the Doge on a coin and made a cryptocurrency out of it that you can get in some of the more limited markets. And I guess now Elon Musk is pushing for it to be, bought and sold on Coinbase and legitimized. So, Dogecoin's on its way. That's about all I know about it. And that my son really wants it, and I'm kind of not willing to perform a wire transfer to own Dogecoin.
I don't blame you.
Valued at like 800ths of a U.S. cent right now. So
I am feeling too stupid to understand anything about cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like I listened to something on NPR about blockchain, and that's about as far as my brain made it. I pulled into my driveway and I was like, yeah, that's a thing. It just seems like it's just so weird that it came out of this burgeoning, scene that was so illicit first. And somebody was noting, it was like, how many of your creepy uncles are suddenly Bitcoin millionaires? Like there's a lot of the wrong dudes that were sitting on this currency in the first place. I don't know if that's a fair stigma, but that's the impression I have.
It seems to me like it is just like internet shit. Meaning, like, if you walked up to someone like at Ace Hardware or something and mentioned Bitcoin, you would probably just get punched.
Right. But then now I'm starting to see signs out front of, like, I saw a sign out front of a laundromat that was like, we accept Bitcoin.
Oh my God.
I was like, okay. Wow. Yeah. So I guess, some of the forms are being legitimized just by their perceived value in the market, their tradability and everybody talking about them. But, man, those server farms are so fucked up too. Like they have some giant ones out here near the Dalles in Oregon, and their energy consumption, they found really cheap hydroelectric energy off of the Columbia River up here, and they've just planted down as many of these little servers as they can to do mining operations, and it's pretty bonkers, like pretty grotesque level of energy use for these cats to be trading their funny money. So I don't know. I have mixed to negative feelings about crypto so far. But in the last 2 weeks, I have some artist friends who are doing the NFT thing, and it's been really beneficial for them economically. And I love to see artists like be able to come up and survive off of what they've already been doing for decades. And so it's a weird feeling for me. I have a mixed. I'm ambivalent because it's cool seeing artists you respect finally be able to survive off of what they do, but at the same time, it's feeding into the crypto market and the energy use. So that's a tough one.
I don't trust anything with the word crypto in it, man.
No, well, I mean, coming from like horror writing background, it just has a totally different I come from like cryptozoology standpoint. So right away I'm like, oh, this is weird. This is weird dude money. Just like some weird guy hovering in the background.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. All this stuff just seems like a secret government experiment.
I don't even know. Well, see, and that's the thing is like, the complicity of like people say government now, but it's like government as an arm, as a highly controlled arm of global corporate capitalist ventures, right? Like it's the corporatocracy, this overriding thing where it's multiple national governments with these global conglomerates, and they're all working in concurrence. Like it's almost like the idea of the nation is the secondary thing that they find kind of humorous. Like to them, it's just codes. It's like tax codes,
Yeah,
or what tax codes, demographics, and marketing demographics. That's what the nation is to them. So the government just working in collusion with them is really interesting too. Like going all the way back to the folks the government decided were not necessarily to be prosecuted under after World War II, and they were like, well, this guy kind of knows a little bit too much. Like let's pull some of these homies over and grant them immunity, and they can come work for our pharmaceutical companies. And there's no reason the knowledge they gained through illegal human experimentation has to be lost. And then they hired some of those cats, and those guys continue to do work like that later. And it's like, I don't know if you could qualify it as shocking. It's like, yeah, that's literally what those guys did. That you were like, come quietly help us out. And they're like, but I'm going to keep doing this to humans. It's like, no, dude.
you had a chance to get out of this. What's going on?
Yeah, we were like, we kind of gave you an out. But then, you also wonder, was it an out, or was it just like, wait a minute, oh, you can get away with this, and come over here and get away with it now. So.
Speaking of cats, I stumbled across this one experiment this morning. Do you know about the acoustic kitty?
No, tell me.
All right. Well, before I begin, if anyone is like super like triggered by animal death, skip ahead a minute. Okay. Acoustic, not you, Jeremy, you can't skip ahead. Acoustic Kitty was a CIA project. Well, they wanted to use cats to spy on like Soviet embassies, and so they spent $20 million doing this operation, which involved installing like a radio transmitter inside of a cat, and they wanted the cat to like sneak up on like spies and listen in, and so. Already, this seems like a bad idea, even though it has a great name. But so it happened. They tried it one time. The first acoustic kitty mission was to eavesdrop on two men in a field outside the Soviet compound on Wisconsin Avenue in Washington D.C. The cat was released nearby, but was hit and killed by a taxi immediately.
That's awful. But that's exactly what happens to cats when you let them out, man.
Yeah.
Like, how did they? Oh my god!
It's like they spent so much time coming up with this transmitting device that no one thought to train the cat to like be a spy.
Yeah, which is fucking impossible. Like you can't cat behavior. I say this as a person who has a cat, and I love my cat dearly. But cats are insane. They are assholes. They are highly irrational. They don't respond to a stimulus in the same way that a dog I could see training to be a spy. Honestly, dogs can do amazing things. Cats, as dearly as I love cats, I never ask them to do a set behavior.
Yeah,
that's madness. So yeah, oh man, just the lack of reason in there, the lack of foresight is why I laugh, because they're like, how could you not see that coming? Like, there's no way that cat's gonna be like, okay, and there's my target. Like my cat doesn't do a reasonable thing at any point. It has certain behaviors. It has certain like things it responds to directly each day that it expects. But it's more like it has me trained to do those behaviors than I have it trained in its way.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Like
if I don't do that, then it behaves irrationally and does all kinds of shit and starts chasing ghosts all over the house and knocking everything over.
Yeah, it's not funny because a cat died. It's funny because these madmen spent so much money and so much time planning this out, but they failed to like predict the one thing that was so obvious would happen, and it happened immediately.
It's awful, but also just picturing them like it feels like it's out of a Coen Brothers movie, right? Like It's just like they go to all this effort for naught with a absurd venture, and then boom,
You could even easily visualize like the guy who let the cat go, like his face. Like if this was a movie, you wouldn't even see the cat get hit. You would see his face the whole time, and he'll like the brake slamming, and the meow, and the guy's face just going, "Oh fuck."
Yeah, that's all they got to spy on was cats don't understand traffic, which we all know.
Oh man.
No, I respect how unpredictable cats are.
Yeah.
And it's like they didn't respect that. It's part of what I love about cats is that they don't always make sense.
No, we have one cat, but she doesn't go by any of us. My stepkid got her when she was small. It was like a stray or something, and I don't know. The cat never like adapted to human beings, and once in a while she will like peek a head out the hallway. But if we look her away, she'll be like, "No," and run back to the cat's room. She has a bedroom now because the stepkid moved out, and she just took over the bedroom. This small black cat.
Well, and that's what I'm talking about. Is like they figure out what the setup is, and then they're like, "Oh, this is mine now.
Yeah,
this is how you behave, and this is me. We're good, right?" And you're like, "Yes, tiny lion, we're good. Like,
yeah,
you do your thing." We got a Siberian cat who was too mean to all the other cats in his household, so they were like, "This is kind of needs to be the only pet in your household because he's an asshole." And we were like, "Oh, that sounds awesome. So bring him in." And it took him like 2 years before he jumped up on anybody's lap. It was super skittish. Like he hid for the first week just like under our bed, and then we only knew he was getting out because the food and water would get diminished. And yes, they take a long time. Like I respect that they take a long time to accept a human too.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah. I'm skeptical. I'm hesitant.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, cats have obviously spent a long time reading up about government experiments on Wikipedia. They know what's up.
Right. Yeah. They know we're not trustworthy, You look at the Wikipedia, if I remember it ends somewhere near like the pharmacology tests in the late 90s. And I remember like Constant Gardener that John Le Carre book was about that. Was just horrifying and stuff. And I think the most recent stuff that I remember, I can't remember which company it was, but somebody got caught testing in India like last year. So they're still, the pharmacology companies, they just are still running fast and loose in any market where they feel like they're not restricted, And then anybody who says like, basically the Sackler family didn't kind of run a marketing and a drug dealing experiment with their oxys is crazy. That to me struck me as, people are always like, "Oh, you can't believe all these bullshit conspiracies." And to a degree, the worst of the internet ones, that's true. And it's because it's like, they're doing this stuff in plain sight, like the widespread distribution of just like the quantity of like plastic and phthalates that is in our water system now, is to a degree a broad scale human experiment. I'm still ambivalent about the amount of like RF waves that are out in the airspace now, just that we keep escalating it. It's like, no, I'm not wearing tinfoil on my head to protect myself or, hiding from wires and stuff. But
not yet.
I also think like how much it is to a degree, like, let's keep turning up the turning up the heat with the frogs in the water. Like how high of a quantity of plastics can we ingest? How many signals, which are present in around us, even if they're invisible, can be safely in our airspace. So it's like, yeah, the stuff is happening. It doesn't have to be necessarily conspiracy. It's just like, you just look and you're like, what are we doing in the name of progress right now that we truly don't understand the full physiological effects of yet, and what is becoming, the standard bearer, like, like PEX and plastic for plumbing and stuff like that, which is, better than having lead in your water, but it still has, like, phthalates and plastics that are released have physiological effects on things. So, so I see that stuff and I always just wonder, like, what's going to get added to the wiki that's happening right now? What's going to be the next update, officially. So it's, you don't want to be associated with, like, the Q people or, Alex Jones. The problem with, like, Alex Jones, man, is every once in a while he'll be like, here's stuff we found out, and the problem is, like, 1 out of 10 of his facts will be legitimate and concerning. And it's those little tiny kernels of truth about, like, technology, that face recognition technology that's being developed, that they actually tested outside of NFL games just to see, like, how does this work? How good is our scanning for detecting, emotional threat through people's face? Things like that, where you're like, well, that is actually, they've verified that one piece, but then it's the 9 other pieces of conjecture associated with that render it paranoia. The lack of reason and conjecture around it makes the conspiracy environment, I think, really toxic, all that uncertainty. And then the fact that you can dive into a niche world where you can find 400 other people now that you never would have connected with in the past, but the internet lets you find those 400 other people that will bear down hard on, like, a specific conspiracy until the cognitive dissonance doesn't even exist anymore, until everybody's just like, this is our shared reality, has been a really interesting phenomenon. But yeah, so I have totally mixed feelings about all that stuff, because bad things are being done, but they're not the bad things that are proliferating on the internet, or the fear and the behavior is being pushed in the wrong direction, and in the meantime, whatever's happening to us, we're not paying close enough attention to, because we're looking at bullshit.
Yeah, there's a lot of just outlandish, like, stuff out there, but that doesn't mean there's not also really bad things happening at all times. I mean, what it seems wrong to assume that, okay, yeah, all this crazy shit happened, like, in the previous century with the government and corporations. Why would it have stopped?
No, and well, that's the thing, is since the 90s, we've had a radical deregulation of the markets, like under Bush II, it was like they rolled so much stuff back, between the EPA and the FDA, and everything was regulatory rollbacks, and we saw that effect almost immediately in the markets. We had, like, the Great Recession and all that, but the effects of that deregulation, we've seen to a degree in the pharmaceutical market, but where else? And then the environment. So we are seeing it. It's like, those behaviors have existed for hundreds of years. Why would it suddenly stop in a less regulated market? There's no way to put those two pieces together and say, oh, I bet everybody's being cool now. People are just super chill these days. I'm
Yeah,
sure
they're
they're
just
not doing
laying
it.
back, hanging
Yeah.
out. But, like, a lot of these themes are directly tied into the loop. So I have to assume, like, did, like, these ideas and thoughts, like, generate the plot of the book, or how did that come along?
Yeah, I mean, it started with, I mean, I've done a lot of, like, paranoid fiction. It's always kind of been my vibe, but yeah, it started with Skullcrack City, and just the theme I can't get rid of when I'm working with this stuff is just, like, the corporate commodification of human life, right? And so all the different ways in which the system kind of turns us into products and consumers and numbers, and then like, when it's not working quite like they want it to, and that we're paying too much attention, they turn us against each other, and they make everybody into others, and so I think Skullcrack City was very overtly about that, and the loop, just kind of continued that theme, and I started writing it, 2016ish, and a lot of that stuff just happened to, whether it was lucky or unlucky, bear out. A lot of that stuff that seemed kind of an extreme version of what we were going through in prior years really came home to roost in 2020. So it was almost like the loop landed, and it was too much of 2020 right as people were trying to pretend 2020 didn't exist anymore.
Yeah, the same thing happened with Paul Tremblay's book. I think it was too much 2020.
We called them the pandemic pals. Like, having your pandemic book launched during a pandemic, and then his was much. I wouldn't say lighthearted, but by Paul Tremblay standards, it's like a hopeful book. And then the loop too has the a lot of the racial aspects and the political strife and the conspiracy stuff, and drones and all the bullshit Elon Musk is trying to pull off. Like it's all kind of, it just happened to wrap up in the same, or get launched in the same year all the stuff actually started happening, which is, it kind of sucked to be prescient about, because it's an experience that myself and my family are going through. So when people were like, oh, was it kind of exciting, to see this come true? I was like, no, I hope the loop would have been, radical satire. Like I intended it to be like this kind of splatterpunk thing where I was like, I'm going to take this way over the top. It's going to be, a radical extension and almost satirical for what I think is happening in our society. And then it turned out to be, not just slightly satirical. And I was like, oh, that's awful. That means things headed the wrong direction, So it wasn't satisfying, and I don't know. But it's been weird because as we get closer to vaccinations and people are starting to feel this sense of things maybe opening up and Trump's out of office and stuff, the sales have actually gone up. Like we've had a weird burst across the last couple months of interest. So it's almost like the more of 2020 we can leave behind, the more people can reckon with a book that it is pretty much like a big dose of 2020. So I'm not sure how or why that's happening, but it's been kind of interesting to watch,
Isn't the paperback edition coming out soon?
Yeah, actually next week on Tuesday, the Titan UK edition drops. And then it hasn't been announced yet, but actually the paperback for the Simon Schuster edition is going to be landing in August now. It was scheduled for May, and since sales have kind of bloomed over the last couple months, and it was second in the country on Audible last weekend or 2 weekends ago. They kind of made an executive call. They were like, we got a ton of Amazon and Barnes and Noble orders for the hard copy edition. We're going to ride this wave. So so the paperback they pushed out till August there, but it's next week in the UK, which is actually the first time it's going to be widely available in the UK and Australia. So I'm really excited for people to be able to get it easily there. Our timing wasn't concurrent for these marketplaces, and so people in the UK have been like, when can we get this? In Australia. So I'm really excited for it to hit, be able for it to get to those readers easily.
Hell yeah. This is a book that it's really easy to spoil, so I'm trying not to. But I do want to know a little bit about the Night Watchman. That is written, like those sections is written as a transcript of a podcast, and
yeah.
I just wondered, like, being in that type of like super paranoid mindset, how was it? Like, was that a fun thing to write? Because it kind of felt like it was a fun section.
Yeah. No, that like that's a funny thing. I get that sometimes when I read other writers. I'm like, oh, this is the part they enjoyed writing. Like it's a weird vibe. You can pick it up off the page where you're like, okay, this was a voice they were enjoying, or a scene, or like this is they were kind of in their mode here. And yeah, I mean, growing up on like Coast to Coast, especially, as I'd be driving out in the high desert bend somewhere like 4 a.m. If for whatever reason Coast to Coast would come on, and Art Bell, and it would be fuzzy transmission, and I'd be sleep deprived listening to that stuff. It's just some of my favorite memories. Just diving into that level of paranoia, and throwing a little bit of Alex Jones in there, and a little bit of just my own kind of crazy. It was really fun to write those, and just go all out on paranoia, just to double down, and to a level where it's like, okay, this is, some of it makes sense, and again, yeah, I want to make sure to add a lot of layers of just irrationality too. Like there's a lot of stuff that he pontificates about the Night Watchman in the book that never comes to bear, or that is never really even mentioned again. There's all this stuff about water hoarding and river redirection and all the data centers coalescing that you can kind of figure out how they fit into the plot, but it's also that kind of throw everything at the wall and see what it sticks podcast, just because, like I said, the more uncertainty you establish, the more you can get people to believe anything and kind of get them wrapped up in your worldview. So I tried to do that with those sections, and it was fun.
Was it difficult to resist doing just like a shit ton of them?
Well, part of it was, because it was easy to write.
Yeah.
and with Lucy, with Lucy, I had so much more sensitivity to writing her character and trying to honor her character. It's a sensitive thing for me to be writing, not just a young woman, but a young Latina woman, and trying to honor that perspective and make sure I'm doing that properly. And so Lucy was a character that I had to write with great care and great precision. And when I'm writing just some crazy asshole, it's like, I don't.
Yeah, just go wild.
So yeah, it was tempting to want to lace more of that in. And actually, the opening podcast transcript was Joe Monte's idea, my editor. He was like, in the early reads, he was like, this podcast stuff is actually lighting people up. They're excited about it. And he's like, maybe we could come out of the gate with it and establish, he's like, go wild on the conspiracy front, establish even more of this happening in this town. And I was like, okay, yeah, you got it. So, and I always like that in Carrie or The Troop, or, those are kind of some of the things I was thinking about. Is I love fake journalism in books, or especially in a lot of the James Ellroy, like American Tabloid does that just at levels that I can't, there's all the transcripts and news articles. He'll do a whole tertiary section in the middle of the book that's 15,000 words of that kind of stuff. And I've always loved it. So any opportunity to kind of experiment with form and the structure of the book too, and create a framing narrative, I think is really fun.
Hell yeah. I don't think you've announced anything yet, so this question might be answered with a can't talk about it, but is there any news about a return of Skullcrack City?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I can talk about it because right now it's so I'm going to kind of I have all the rights to everything right now. I have the rights to Skullcrack City, In the River, Extinction Journals, and all the short fiction that wasn't collected in Entropy and Bloom. And so I've kind of decided, we were sitting on it for a while. There was a TV deal that was maybe in the works, and then there was a movie project, and then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden the word on the street was, okay, big projects are a lot harder to sell right now. Episodic stuff, they're paying 50,000 extra bucks per episode just to keep COVID standards upheld. And then the shift was, everybody told me, if you can put 3 to 4 people in a house with some jump scares and a kind of basic narrative that we can film easily under COVID conditions for like $1 to $2 million, that's the gem right now. And so the focus kind of shifted. And so, the heat that was established around the film version of The Loop, and we actually sadly lost out on a feature film edition of In the River that was going to be kind of this brilliant plan that resets it in the American South. And there were some deals that just kind of fell through at the advent of the pandemic. And so I was sitting on those books and I was like, well, originally the idea was, okay, we're going to repackage them. Like maybe, like Mallerman did with his stuff that he repackaged at Del Rey, right? Thinking like maybe Tor or Del Rey or somebody can kind of pick up my back catalog, but it was going to be contingent on one of these movie deals coming through. And when those fell to the side, I just have been so busy promoting The Loop that stuff has kind of sat there stagnant. But I decided I'm going to, in the next couple months, just re-release it all myself in the time being, because I'm kind of missing having that stuff out there. It's crazy that Skullcrack's not on the market. It was, still popular and doing really well when I took it off. So the idea is, I'm going to do a little tiny imprint called Co-Evolution Press, which is kind of this thing I'm going to do the hybrid model and just publish my own back catalog for the time being, retain 100% of the rights receive 100% of the royalties. And then if, movie or TV deals come back around and somebody else is interested in publishing that work, they can. But in the meantime, I want readers to have access to this stuff. So yeah, hopefully by June, Skullcrack, In the River, and then this new collection that's going to be called All the Wrong Ideas is going to be available and just back out there in kind of standard trade paperback and digital edition, and back up and running. The covers will be slight variant covers. There'll be different editions for people who want to have both, because that first Skullcrack's become this bizarre collector's thing. So yeah,
I'm glad I have that edition. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe what people have been paying for it out there. I've been trying to tell them. I was like, no, it's coming back. Like, just straight up, there's other books. In the meantime, take a break, wait, this will be back out. But there's also, a collector's market. Like, I'm not personally a collector, so I don't understand it. But, I get that people want to have those rarer copies. And, so yeah, stuff's coming back out. And I'm really excited to get it back out there. And we'll just see what happens with all the film projects and stuff. So yeah, that's all stuff I can talk about. I'm kind of excited to talk about it because I'm ready for those books to be readable again.
Yeah, that's awesome. And until then, like, how can folks find you online? Like, where should they be looking?
Oh, just Twitter, and Twitter's the main place I hang out. Like, I begrudgingly stay on Facebook because it's part of my social media platform as far as my publisher is concerned. So I'm still over there, but not very active. I'm on Twitter pretty much every day. And then I have a website, like the worst website name ever. It's just jeremyrobertjohnson.com. Super inventive. But that's where I'm at. And I can be reached through there. Instagram, like I'm not great at that because I don't take a lot of pictures of myself hanging out in my garage, which is mainly what I do. So,
you should take a photo right now.
Just every day, just me in my garage. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say Twitter's the best place. Cool. It's where I'm the most active and the easiest place to reach me and stuff. And I'm pretty accessible unless you're like a creeper. No creepers.
Oh, good to know. Okay.
Yeah. I've had a couple different creepers, and then Brian Keene was like, "Dude, you got to get a PO box. Like you can't have your actual address or any of that stuff out there." And so I've gradually. I used to be a much more accessible person, and gradually like stripped away aspects of my life from the internet. There's no pictures of my kid out there. There's not, just because it only takes a couple creepers writing you from prison saying you're going to be their mentor and sending you like 400 pages of math problems and descriptions of crimes they've committed, and you're like, oh, okay, this is a problem. So
the only postage I've gotten from someone in prison was, I run a company called Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing, and someone sent me like blueprints for a perpetual motion machine they designed in prison. I don't exactly understand what was going on with that, but it's a fun thing to own now.
Thank you for the patent on this.
Yeah, now I'm rich, so
you may not understand what I do, but thank you. And wow, I can't believe it worked. I made it out of balsa wood. Now I'm a billionaire.
Okay, I'm taking that laugh into my notebook. Thank you. That was Jeremy Robert Johnson talking about secret government experiments. Go buy The Loop. Go buy books we've published at perpetualpublishing.com. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/PMM Publishing. Thank you. Goodbye.
spooky.